What's going on, CALIVEGANs, and welcome into another episode of the CALIVEGAN podcast. And today we're going to continue our conversation about protein because everyone loves it. And there is a lot to say because in order to unpack and make you understand that protein is not that big of a deal as the world is making it look like, it requires a lot of conversation. But first, let's do my first set. So, one arm assisted pull-up. Last week we had, I think, 4 reps. Yeah, 4 reps for the 4 sets. For the 4 sets, four. We're trying to emulate 4. Oh, by the way, I fucked up my diet last week, so I am almost a kilogram heavier this morning, so that might going to affect my progress. Feels pretty good. Not too bad. As always, let's start with some vegan roasting, funny, controversial statement. Which today I wanted to talk about what's the most ridiculous, I think, nonsense excuse that anti-vegans have against veganism, which is appealing to nature, right? Like, when you justify killing animals because other animals in nature kill, there's a huge spectrum of nonsense that you're jumping into. First of all, since when we behave based on what animals in nature do? We just don't do that. We are a civilized and modern society. So you either say that everything is nature, and that, okay, but then you still cannot use it as a justification. Or if you see nature as the Serengeti and the Amazon forest where animals are surviving, then, that got nothing to do with you, right? And that's not a reason for you to go to a supermarket and then pay for animal body parts created in a very advanced system of enslavement, torture, and murdering of animals called farming. That's got nothing to do with nature. Even hunting got nothing to do with nature because we use advanced tools. So humans don't behave as the rest of nature. Nature does, right? And then, this is one thing. And the other thing is, do you know that there is only a small percentage of animals that are actually carnivore? The vast majority of animal is a herbivore, frugivore. Right? That's another thing. So why do you only choose to behave like those guys, the carnivore guys? Because also, we're not similar to lions, we are not similar to leopards, we're similar to chimpanzee, and they are frugivore. They don't. Yes, you will, but they also have some meat, but that's not part of their diet. It's just I've researched this, and you can look. I don't know. I think it was National Geographic that was stating this, but actually, the percentage of meat and insects they have inside of their diet is it's 1 to 5%. It's a very, very small part, and it's more of a culture they have that sometimes chimpanzees actually go to hunt and gather together to hunt, just like human tribes do. But their diet is based on fruit. They are frugivore. So, and So yeah, that's one thing, it's crazy. And then if you go like, what about my canines? I don't know you, but I don't think I can kill with those. And then you have hippos, which are known herbivores, who have one of the biggest canines in the animal kingdom. So yeah, like appealing to nature to justify you murdering animals really doesn't make any sense. Oof, done it. All right, cool. Let's talk about protein. So the first thing I want to say is like, when I went vegan, I already was into fitness. How I already trained, and I based my diet on animal products, right? I was having meat or fish, basically 5 times per week, you know, morning, morning time I would have meat, but in my morning snack I would have a sandwich with tuna, for example. For lunch I would have chicken, rice, and perhaps I have some spinach. Sometimes I would have no vegetables. Actually, I wasn't a big greens eater. And then my snack would be again, that's like a sandwich with ham, for example. And then in the evening I would have, again, maybe bread with hamburger. So I always had meat in my meals for the protein intake thing. So you need to understand that I also had this concept and this attachment to protein. And I never thought differently, but I think that when you go vegan, you need to allow, skepticism to arise above many things, right? Because yes, you have those studies supporting a high amount of protein to build muscle, but hey, there were also these studies that said that you need the milk from another species to get calcium, and we now know that is not true. You can get calcium from dark leafy greens, and there are other foods like nuts as well. They contain calcium. So they were selling us the milk from another species to get calcium. And then there are other, part of the discussion that actually say that because protein in animal products is acidic. I'm not very expert of this, but I heard multiple times that protein in animal products is acidic, and the body, to regulate that acidic state, will get calcium or phosphorus from the bones, and therefore you're actually doing the opposite by drinking milk for calcium, because the body will take minerals from the bones. And so with that said, you gotta be somewhat skeptical about this study. You cannot just blindly follow these studies, right? Now, I'm not actually negating that eating higher protein, like 1.6 grams of protein, maybe even 2, even though like studies, are clear about this. It seems to me that, over 1.6 gram, there's not a significant benefit in, protecting and increasing lean muscle mass. But I'm not negating that there is a benefit. I'm not negating that. But my message is that it's just not necessary. If you want to build muscle, you can build muscle with less protein. That was good. So you can build muscle with less protein. The reason I got to the conclusion is the fact that I always was kind of against protein powder, you know? For me, food has everything that we need to be healthy, make progress, and get stronger. Also, for me, I also have this very clear vision that what was really important in order to get results and build muscle was how you train and how you progress. Because when I was 17, 18, and I had my first, and I had this mindset already, I wasn't that much convinced that nutrition was such a magic pill. Why? Because, you know, I had better results than others, and for me, the real difference that I noticed was the way we trained. I worked out harder, I was getting stronger, I was more consistent than other. And so, yeah, I would say, yeah, nutrition as well, but you know, I always thought that training was the number one thing. And so when I go vegan, I started to be also worried about protein, right? I was eating way too many legumes to increase my protein intake, and there was a period in which I was having protein shakes as well. But then I was like, you know what? Like, I don't want to force myself to eat in a way that I don't like, and doesn't really make sense to eat like all of these legumes just to get a very high protein target. So I started to eat less, focusing more on whole plant food, right? And I noticed that nothing really changed. I kept getting stronger. I built some muscle on the way. And this is how I got to this point, because it's already multiple years. I don't eat more than, let's say, 1.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, right? Usually I'm lower than that. Like as of right now, I'm doing a cut and I eat 110 grams and I weigh 83 kilograms. Okay, so really, I stopped worrying about getting, you know, 150 or 200 grams of protein per day. And here's where I noticed that when I have genuine conversation about the protein intake with other people, I noticed that people is actually where they kind of realize they're missing something in their knowledge. And I am as well. I'm not an expert, right? I don't know every single details. But like something that people struggle with is thinking that, you know, the protein intake will make huge changes inside of your results when it comes to muscle building and increasing strength, which is it's nonsense for me, to be honest. I would never think that way. Ooh. Can we do 4 again? If I can do 4, like clean, without resting, like last week, I'll give it a 5th set. Yes! So now we have to do the 5th set. And well, I'm getting stronger, guys. And again, this is why I have muscle, not because of my protein intake. So here's the thing. Someone commented 1.2 gram of protein is good for maintenance, but if you're trying to build muscle, you should go up to 1.6 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So what does it mean? Does it mean that if you get to this level of strength, but you eat less protein, you don't build muscle? Like what? So in my opinion, we should look at training first and how the training is going. And then if something is wrong with training, maybe there are other things to adjust. Guess what's the first thing you should adjust if you're not making progress within your workout plan? Maybe you're overtraining, maybe you're not doing enough volume, maybe the exercise selection is not good for you. So again, we go into training first if the training is not going well. And then we can look at nutrition. Maybe you feel tired, but here's another misconception that people have. Like, protein is not a source of energy. If you feel tired, protein has got nothing to do with it. You're probably not eating enough calories, or you're not eating very healthy. So if you follow this thought process, like, protein really isn't there. Really isn't there. So 1.2 grams is for maintenance and 1.6 is for building. Nonsense for me. So now what I ask people at this point is, what do you think is the difference? All right, so some people would say, like, if you want to optimize muscle growth, you have to eat 1.6. You have to eat 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And as I said in the beginning, I'm not neglecting that you can optimize muscle growth by eating more protein. But the question is, what does optimizing means? How much more muscle are you going to build? Because again, if you go into like a thought process, you know, like it doesn't really make sense that protein is this magic tool, because muscle growth is slow by nature. Sure, when you are a beginner, you build muscle faster. You know, some beginners can build up to 10 kilograms of muscle in 1 year. That's a huge transformation. But, you know, let's say you have the same person and does go the same training progress through that year, but the same person, let's say they're twins. One is eating 1.2, the other is eating 1.6 or 2 grams. What do you think is the difference? So in my opinion, there's almost no difference, but apparently there are some studies, and there is Dr. Niagara talks about this with an interview with Hench Herbivore. You can look it up on YouTube. It's like minute 2 or something. Anyway, it's not a long interview, you can watch it all. And it brings up a meta-analysis, you know, right? For what I understand, like, meta-analyses are the most important kind of studies to look at when we want to get conclusions on if something is working or something is not working. And apparently the difference is 8%. So between 1.2 and, no, the difference was between 0.8 and 1.5 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. 8% extra gains. Little help at the top. 8% extra gain. That's nothing. So that means that in that year we were talking about before, you know, the difference in the two twins would be not even a kilogram of extra muscle. Now, that might be, you know, a good extra amount of muscle. I mean, 1 kilogram of extra muscle, you can see it. You can absolutely see it. So that might seem reasonable. That might seem worth it, you know, and that's okay. But what about the following years? What's happening the following years? Because trust me, like the example of 10 kilogram is like someone that's have very, very good genetic, very, 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 very good genetics. But after that, you go 5, your second year, maybe, but surely after your second year, it's below 2 and probably below 1 for most people, right? So if you follow some fitness influencers like Greg Doucette, they are always talking about this, you know, like the social media makes it look like everyone can do this, but no, like even my genetic, even though we have a lot of haters that say that I'm small, but I'm not small. Like something that when I was insecure about the amount of muscle that I had, you know, I went to look at these Italian vegan bodybuilder, natural bodybuilder is competing, is, you know, in a federation with strict rules, and he's natural. You can look his max vegan bodybuilder. You'll find it. It looks great. It looks very muscular. And so I wanted to know the height and the weight, right? To kind of understand the proportion of someone who is big as a natural. And I noticed that he was lighter than his height, meaning he was like 177, I believe, centimeters, and he was weighing like 75 kilos, absolutely shredded with veins everywhere. And so now I weigh 83 kilograms, and I am 177. So I believe that I've reached that same genetic potential as him, because I'm not shredded right now. Like I can, there are no veins really on me. So we got veins here a little bit, but you know, on the abs there's no veins. There's a lot that could be improved. I lost the count. I don't know if I did 6 reps, to be honest. Oh, wow. And let me write things down here, because I didn't write everything. Nothing. So I'm sure we did 5 sets of 4 for the one arm, I think. And we're just going to write 6 for this exercise. So my point was that you know, like building muscle is slow, and after your second year we start building 1, maybe 2 kilograms of muscle, right? So that already becomes 5 times less of a rate and 5 times less of a benefit. So that's 100 grams of extra muscle. Apart from that, there's another thing that's called genetic potentials. You're not going to build muscle forever, or maybe yes, but you know, it's going to be very, very little once you hit your genetic potential. It's not going to be a relevant change, probably. Like where I am right now, you know, it's not like I build muscle 1 kilogram per year. Like based on the calculation that I've done and my measurements, I've been able to build about 1 extra kilograms in the last 2 years. So slow progress, you see, like, and here it comes my question, like, is it that important to you know, eat a higher amount of protein, which I'm not saying is necessarily difficult to do so, but what I'm saying is some vegans, in order to hit the higher amount of protein, they start implementing processed food and protein powders, okay, fake meats, you know, and seitan, just to increase their protein target. And for me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if you want to do that, fine, you know, you'll be healthy with some processed food inside of your diet, as long as most of it is coming from whole plants, you know, like, so you're not doing lines of cocaine. But for me, right, I see more benefit in eating more fruit, vegetables, and legumes than eliminating some of those to put in some fake meats, you know? And yeah, so here's my point. You know, yeah, there's nothing wrong on eating more protein, but if you feel forced, especially as a vegan, to have protein shakes and fake meats to get to this higher protein target, that if you followed my thought process, I don't think is that relevant of a benefit, then don't do it. Prioritize health, prioritize whole food instead. Where were we? And that's one thing. And the other important point about protein that I want to make is this is definitely something that the whole population needs to change when they have that protein conversation related to muscle building, is that you don't need 1.6 or 2 grams or more to build muscle. You can build muscle with less. 1.2 is absolutely fine. It's going to get you results. You want to optimize? Then eat more. Another point about this, it's not that difficult at the end of the day to eat more protein if you have a balanced diet. That's also to say that more people eat enough protein without worrying about it. And the crazy thing is that all of this protein propaganda and narrative and conversation began before veganism, which is definitely, you know, lower in protein if you compare it, compare whole plants with animal products. Obviously is lower in protein, but the protein conversation happened before, when the people was already eating a lot more protein than the average vegan, and also eating more protein than the RDA, the daily recommendations. So with this, we can go back at the first statement that I've done. You gotta be somewhat skeptical about what expert and science says, because it seems sometimes that the direction in which they go, it's more related to, you know, who they found them, or some random thing, some random conversation, right? Because why the protein narrative was so huge 15 years ago when everyone was eating enough protein. Because probably, not 100% sure, but probably the chain of protein powders needed a way to sell more. That's it. And this is why there was all this pumping and conversation about protein before, and it stays to these days, because it's not like studies are wrong. Again, I'm not neglecting that. If you want to optimize 100%, eating more protein will not do that. Oh, this is being hard today, guys. Let's see if I get something from the comments. Oh yeah, and actually, from all these studies and the past, also the reason why there is this concept that protein are only in animal products, it's all coming because there was some kind of connection between the two things, right? So one is promoting protein powders, the other is selling animal body parts. How can we sell more protein powders and more meat? Let's say is very high in protein, which it is, right? So you see how everything connects. And I'm not trying to be the conspiracy theory talker. I'm not really, but I mean, it's obvious that part of these protein, excitement is coming from marketing only, and not the need of more protein, both in humans to be healthy and people who want to build muscle or perform properly in sports. And especially when another thing that helped me forget about, and being worried about protein is realizing that actually protein is in everything. You don't have to look at the protein source. You don't have to look for a protein source that is high in protein and then that's a protein source. No. Legumes, sure, they have a lot of carbs, but they have protein as well. Nuts, they have a lot of fat, they have protein as well. Fruit, there is very little protein in it, sure, but they still have protein in it. Vegetables, you actually have a lot of vegetables that have calories to protein ratio that's very high. Now you cannot eat a lot. I mean, personally, I cannot eat a lot of vegetables because they're just very high in fiber. Usually I keep it within 300 grams in my meals. If it's more than that, it's difficult for me to eat a meal. All right, so because otherwise I think that's because it's just too much amount of food, too much water, and too much fibers. So yeah, protein is in everything. And relating to this, someone asked me, how do I structure a meal? Sip of tea. Now, so some anti-vegan is going to say, hey, do you know that in the production of tea, they use monkeys to pick up the leaves. I don't know, something like that, just to make me look like a vegan hypocrite. Oof. Actually, before talking about that, let's make a comment about my training, right? Because one of the things I wanted to do today was progressing in this exercise by adding an extra second during the front lever hold with one leg. But I didn't do that, and the reason why I didn't do that is because I added an extra set on my first exercise, 1 hour pull-up. So I knew that it would have been pushing it, and I felt it straight away because it did feel harder than usual to do this exercise. And that is a natural curve of making progress with your workout. You know, sometimes, for example, I stay at the same volume for my first exercise, all right? Because I feel like that's the best way to do it, better to wait 1 week. But what happens is that because I still got stronger, you know, from the week before, I'm likely to be able to make progress on my second exercise. And that progress then transfer into my main focus. This is something that people often don't think about. And also, you know, what I do to progress is usually I add sets and then reduce the sets. I increase the sets up to 5 and then reduce them to 3 and increase the reps. Okay, so increasing the sets first with the same amount of repetitions, and then increasing the rep and reducing the sets. So when I do that, when I reduce the sets again, then the volume of that exercise is going to be lower. And that will allow me to be less fatigued and do better in my second exercise. So you see, I leave my workout having this natural wave of progress. I'm sorry guys, but I need to pee. I never brought you guys in my bathroom while I'm peeing, so I hope you're not mad at me. But I guess the tea got me, you know, wanting to pee. Right, so hands are clean. And now we get into our endurance work with the chin-ups, body weight. We did 3 sets, 15 last week. First sets, 15, and then 13 plus 2, and 13 plus 2 again. You know, I'll do 4 sets. Yeah, something I definitely need to start practicing during my workout is not is not releasing the bar for my last repetition, because that's a requirement for the competitions that I'm going to participate. And even though, I mean, like, I wasn't expecting to win my first competition, actually yes, but then I realized when I got there that the level was too high. So I got a few penalties because I released the bar before extending my arm completely. So that's definitely something that I have to practice. So there is a post on my Instagram where I show how I structure my main meal. So it's carbs, rice, pasta, bread, legumes, lentils, white fava beans, red kidney beans, chickpeas, whatever. And then we have the vegetables part. In this part I had like mushrooms only. So someone asked me, what about the greens? So when it comes to, well, if you're talking with like green vegetables, like, you know, broccoli, asparagus, maybe red peppers and all this stuff, I usually just change the vegetable mix in my plate. Okay, this day was mushroom, another day would be broccoli with red pepper. Okay, so I just mix and match. But I think this guy was talking about dark leafy greens, which are actually apparently amongst the healthiest food inside of a plant-based diet, very rich in fiber, but more importantly, they are rich in minerals that are important to bone health. So not milk, but dark leafy greens. Those should be our main focus when it comes to bone health. And so to answer the question, after a few conversations with raw vegans, it made me realize that, you know, like being completely raw vegan, it doesn't interest me. I don't think it's very sustainable. Like, as I said before, you know, like eating a lot of fibers is kind of difficult for me. So, but I did decide to implement a raw meal inside of my daily eating. And in the evening, I would have my dark leafy green as a salad, and the structure of my plate would be pretty similar. So carbs, they usually comes from instant noodles in the evening, and then I have a block of tofu. It's usually 200 to 250 grams of tofu, depends on the brand. And I will add some more vegetable like carrots, tomatoes. I don't understand. It changes. Ah, 14. Fact, guys, my ADHD is ruining my business. I always forget the important part of the video. Let's do it. If you're watching on Instagram, not subscribe, comment, like, share it on your story if this was interesting. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, and watch it again if it wasn't clear. But let me know in the comment, you know, if there is something that you want me to address in the next podcast. And the last but very important part as well is going to be my coaching program, because if you're a vegan, and you want to build muscle to feel more confident and set a good example for the vegan movement, but you're struggling to understand how to eat and how to train. Perhaps you've tried different methods, but you cannot find that upward progression that makes you feel motivated about being consistent with your workouts. I can help you with my CALIVEGAN program, which have helped already more than 200 vegan men to build muscle with calisthenics, most of them training from home. And I will give you a calisthenics training plan, selecting the best exercises for your strength level, learning the different technique through videos, a diet plan based on whole plant food, minimizing supplements to only B12, setting a caloric target that's going to make you develop a lean physique with visible abs, and you will have accountability, so you won't be alone in this journey. You have access to me through chat to ask me questions. We'll be doing a weekly check-in, a weekly group calls with Q&A, and just connect with other vegans. And if you're interested, you think this might be the solution for you and get you unstuck and finally build strength and muscle so you can be confident next time people tell you that vegans cannot get protein, just go to my Instagram, Stefano Vegan Calisthenics, and drop me a DM saying CALIVEGAN, and we'll talk about this further. All right, I've done it. You know, most of you won't listen to this because as always, I put it at the end because I forget. And then people say, you know, they don't believe in ADHD, right? But you do need to understand that before each episode, I remind myself to do it. And I still forget. So trust me, ADHD is a thing. But that's it, we're done. No more talking, only the last set to go, which I think I can go now. And if you're wondering why I'm not doing 5 sets, as I said, because I don't feel like it. Five more. So this is really the important part about endurance training. You force yourself to do those extra reps through fatigue, which is something that is not absolutely necessary to make progress in strength and building muscle, but to compete in endurance calisthenics competition, that's what I need to do. Okay. 2 more. Just the time to write it down and finish it off. We did 15 as the first one. Then we did 14 plus 1, I believe. And then we have 10. 10 plus. I think I did 2. Got to do 3 more. We're done. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.